This is Dr. Catherine Collins. I don't know if anyone will ever hear this. It's all over. I'm the only one left. I'm going to continue to broadcast for as long as I am able. If I'm right, we should be able to pick up the signal right across the valley. The event has left markers. We don't understand it yet, but we're going to keep working to try and understand it. You can use them to find what you're looking for. The answers, they're all here. The answers are in the light.
I've just played Everyone Has Gone to the Rapture. And I have to say, not being a video game, the story did interest me. This is in the same lines as The Stanley Parable or Heavy Rain, which I would refer to this as interactive designs or playable designs, which would have genres similar to like films, like action adventure, or comedy, which is different than themes. To be honest, this is just me creating a subgenre under interactive entertainment so I can describe these kinds of games. And the reason why I haven't called it interactive narrative, because that would mean that I would have to create a whole new genres and subgenres for each different non-game released. So I think it's best to categorize these games in one category for now. These interactive designs tend to focus on aspects of play that I would call casual games. If I had to be a game, it would be a casual game, since these games have no real commitment with no end game. And I would consider a casual game with no end game, meaning that there's no ending to the game, it's always going on as an attribute of casual games. Now with the gameplay. Basically the player, if human at all, since there's no reflection or shadow casting, isn't present when walking in a slow pace, interacting with objects to unfold a story that appears that a floating ball of light is telling to the player. From what I have gathered, this erratic moving ball of light is actually communicating to the player through various devices. Sometimes there is a PA announcement as if the inhabitants are still experiencing the uncontrollable events, or a static ball of light can be manipulated by the player, created by the moving ball of light. To manipulate these static balls of light by tilting the DualShock 4 left or right far enough so the ball's light almost dissipates, to alter the environment if needed, to show an event that had happened in that very spot. It is also important to note that sometimes these balls of light, these static balls of light, need to be held in the position in order for the event to be triggered. This is essentially the interactive design or the casual game's premise. For the most part, once getting the hang of it, the story does move faster, but the more exploring that is done by the player, the more slowly the story unfolds, but the more the player can potentially learn about what happened. This is where I think the game kind of fails. Even as a casual game, or whatever you want to call this, I'll just refer to it as casual game for now. Even as a casual game, this is a bad thing, because now you're taking a task that is very simple to become more tedious and longer than it should be when you're simply just moving the character, and it's at a very, very slow pace. And I know console gaming, when the controls are slightly different from PC gaming, all games pretty much feel the same, but with console gaming, the controls are different for each game. This I understand, but at the same time, if all you're doing is exploring, and that very function itself takes longer than it should to explore, then that's kind of a problem. Despite that, the story is well developed. Like, it does make sense. Like, it's logically sound within the universe created. So therefore, with that said, it can intrigue people into the story, which is the main focal point of this game. The presentation is spot on. It's interesting how they present the story, because you don't actually see the facial animations, but you hear the emotions in the voices. So the voice acting is like spot on, since that's all you basically, you do see like the silhouette and the body's movement, but it's all in light and it's not that much in focus, but the voices are crystal clear and you hear the emotions in the voice, which is amazing. And then the sound, like when I mean the sound is like the audio, like the music is just spot on. It comes on at the right moments and it sets the tone, and then you see the environments, like the whole presentation is just spot on. The only thing is just the pacing of the controlled character. That's my gripe about this game. Besides that, everything as a casual game is perfect. This is like perfect casual game besides the pacing. I did finish the game, and one of the trophies, this game does have trophies, and one of the trophies that it has is called The End. And the description of that trophy is completed the game, and for some reason I did not get that trophy, which makes me intrigued that what did I miss in order to not get that trophy. So the trophies do bring the replayability as a traditional gamer, but as a casual gamer, this may intrigue you as well, since these trophies don't seem to be too tedious or strenuous or skill based. This is like this game basically is like an adventure game, but not quite there as an adventure game. So I consider this more like a casual adventure game, if you want to call it that. So with that said, these trophies will be fairly easy to do, to achieve or acquire, but the pacing of the walking will probably make it tedious, because there's one trophy that says to go back into all the areas, because the game is broken up to different sections, and each section is focused on a particular character that was present at the moment of these events. So like they might have one area which is introduced with a ball of light. the erratic ball of light, tends to have a name, which I'm assuming that's the name. You might have, like, say, Lisa as one of the areas, and Lisa's area might be all dark, and then you might have an area called, like, Eric, and that ball of light in that Eric area might be all bright. So this is like simulating the time of day. I'm assuming the time of day that these particular events took place, or it might also be because it's setting the tone. Again, this game, it does not tell you anything, does not handhold you, and you basically have to discover things on your own, and it's like leaving up to interpretation for the player. So this is like abstract. This is like an abstract game. Very abstract. Like, this is like, you can't get any more abstract than this. And honestly, when I was playing the game, I thought this was like a prequel to BioShock. I swear to God, I thought it was BioShock, and even right now, I'm still debating whether it's a prequel to BioShock, because it has a BioShock feel, especially with the last game with that magic. It tends to have a BioShock feel, especially with the setting and the types of technology that was present at the time. So this makes it interesting. If this is a prequel to BioShock, it would be so cool. But considering who developed the game and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like it's likely to be a prequel to it. But honest to God, if this was a prequel, it would not shock me, because honestly, this would be an amazing casual game to an epic game like BioShock is not that epic. It has problems, but it would be cool to have like a casual game to lead up to a more traditional game, in my opinion at least. But yeah, besides that, the story is amazing, and when you start to get invested in the characters, you get to see the drama, and you get to understand the characters' personalities. It becomes more interesting, and for at least me, I wanted to play more to see what would happen. But keep in mind that this is not a traditional game, and I'm just gonna call it a casual game. So basically, what a casual game is, that it doesn't really have restrictions. There are still parameters, but it's not like a typical game. It's just more on focus on certain aspects of play, but doesn't really have a purpose too much. You can have a purpose, but yet that purpose is not so forced like in traditional games. So just keep that in mind if you're ever going to purchase this game. This is a casual through and through. You can't get any more casual than this. Now with the conclusion, I would grade this as a C+, because the pacing of the game is so slow. And again, I understand that console games have different feels. Like the controls create certain lag to create a certain kind of feel, or they have like animations that should fully complete in order for another animation to be triggered. Like, I understand console gaming has different types of feel, like different types of controls than the PC, because PC gaming, everything's pretty much standard. So I understand that console gaming has slightly different controls or mapping of controls on the console. But with that said, since all you're doing is just moving, and you're moving at a very, very, very slow pace, sometimes exploration can be hindered because of that. And since that's basically all you're doing, this grade is basically solely on the fact that it's a C+ because of this. If the pacing was a little bit faster, if you can actually move, and sometimes because you can't really move very fast, and say for example you want to go into a door, you can access that door, but you can't hop over, like, let's say, a hedge or some kind of like bush. You have to walk all the way around to the front and then come all the way back. Like stuff like that where you can't really hop over anything. There's this one section in the game I found that you can actually hop over a fence, but that's basically it. There's no actual interaction of moving around objects, hopping over objects, like stuff like that. It kind of kills the game. even if you can't really interact with something, at least like you should have like maneuverability at least there, move around, like maybe at least hop over a bush or hop over stuff, like small stuff, so you don't have to walk around and become more tedious. So when it's stuff like that, when the door is just right there, and the only reason why you can't get to the door is because of the bush, and you can't hop over the bush, yeah, that's a major problem. So that's why I'm grading this game a C plus, or a casual game as a C plus. But besides that, the story is pretty good, and I think the story, the story is presented in this game, I think traditional games should take notes, or developers should be taking notes on how to present a story in a traditional game, because this game presents it in a really interesting way. It's not like the presentation itself, like it is interesting, and yeah, like the story is just overall interesting. But then again, each story is, you might not like the story, but how it's presented, this is how a game should be presenting stories. And the visuals are just stunning. Honestly, it kind of kills me that it's not a traditional adventure game. I consider this a casual adventure, and that's kind of disappointing. Like on a personal note, because I'm an adventure guy. I like playing PC games and adventure PC games, and it's kind of disappointing that some people are just basically beating around the bush of adventure games. Like there's Portal, but yeah, Portal. There's this Portal that was like out like a while back. I want something new, something fresh, and I'm kind of disappointed on a personal level that it's not a traditional adventure game. But the only thing that's holding it back is the movement. Like you can't go around the bush. You have to go around the bush in order to open the door, and you can access that door. Just have to go all the way around, and that's kind of tedious. So besides that, the game's pretty good. I think it's not for everyone, because this is a casual game. But if you're interested in how stories can be presented in video games, give this one a look. TX3 out.
Stephen? I can hear the planes. It's the government coming to rescue us. You can come out now. It's all gonna be all right. I can hear the jets coming. It's like when Eddie came home. It's like your dad coming home again.